Stage where he kept the ball for about 2 minutes and then give away a really soft pass, and that just put Brentford on the front foot again. And those are the type of situations where you think, well, just keep the ball, keep them working, keep the ball until an opportunity arises, until an opening, presents itself to you. And we didn't do that well in the second half after the second goal, and really the game should have petered out after that second goal. I think it was two mistakes, a couple of mistakes. You've seen the mistakes creeping in the second half. Whether that was through tiredness, I'm not sure, but there was definitely a multitude of small mistakes that crept into the game, and in the end, Leicester paid the price for those small mistakes mounting up.
Yeah, can you maybe accept a little bit, Matt, that mistakes will maybe happen at this stage of the season, being that early?
Yeah, I think there's an element of that. You don't want to be too forgiving to the players, certainly from Brendan Rodgers' point of view, because you've got to expect high standards from high quality players. But to have the game in their grasp like they did, and then again, I don't know, only the players can tell us if they're going to speak honestly and say how tired they were. Listen, you're not as sharp in the first game as you are in maybe the fourth, fifth. Hot day as well, so they had to manage that as well. And I thought they did that excellently in the first half, because sometimes they played forward quickly, other times they kept possession. But the edge went off their game without a doubt. Jerry's sort of touched on it there. When they had good situations, numerous good situations, decision making, or the sharpness, the edge wasn't there in their game, and Brentford sort of picked up on that, didn't they? It seemed, and I wouldn't say Leicester wilted, but all of a sudden, again, Jerry described it there as a ding dong. It was a little bit to and fro, wasn't it? And there were big gaps. Like the two defences were a long way apart, and there were big gaps in midfield, and Brentford chanced their arm a little bit, and I wouldn't say they came out lucky, because it was a quality finish, the second goal, wasn't it? But they had a little bit of a gamble, had a little bit of a flutter, and it paid off for them. But Leicester weren't resilient enough. The boys have mentioned it already about the numerous minute mistakes, if you like, and some a bit more glaring than others. And a number of defenders, you've got to realise the situation. Like, they've been forewarned a couple of times, overplaying in precarious positions and situations. Learn from those mistakes, but they didn't. Again, they tried to play out from the back, and cost them dear in the end. But I think there are many things that could have been improved when conceding both goals, like the throw-in from Amati originally, and that wasn't the best, and it gets played across, the ball over. Ewan said it to me, was exactly what I was thinking. Amati could have stepped up, played him offside. Well, if you're not going to step up and track the man, get round the right side. He was the wrong side. Too easy for Tony. Well taken goal. But and then the second goal, the boys have mentioned that, and it was almost as if the lads didn't realise that he was that adept on his left foot, because it's vital that you show him out wide away from goal, and Silva's forged a bit of a reputation for himself, hasn't he? So lots of things to look at, but it's frustrating, isn't it, conceding those two goals? But there are plenty of positives as well. You reflect back on that first half in particular. Yeah,
the warning signs were there a little bit as well, Jerry, weren't they? With the effort from Ivan Toney with his header, it hit the side netting, didn't it, late on? That would have made it 2-2, probably about 2 or 3 minutes before the eventual equaliser.
Yeah, that was a golden opportunity for Ivan Toney, you have to say. And you could see him after the game. He was on his own, on his knees. And he was having a word with himself, I think, saying, how have I missed that at the far post? So, yeah, there was opportunities for both sides. But what Brentford did, they got good balls into the box early. And Tony was the one player in a Brentford shirt that always seemed to be where all good strikers are, and that's trying to get on the end of those crosses into the box. I think as far as Leicester are concerned, in the second half especially, most of their play was coming through the middle, and with Maddison, Tielemans in particular. I think James Justin spent a lot of time in the opposition's half of the pitch, more time than say Castagna did, but there wasn't any real fruit-bearing gifts coming from either side on either the left or the right in the second half. It was sort of coming down the middle.
They were unlucky, Ewan, as well, you have to say, Leicester City today. They hit the woodwork twice, didn't they? Firstly through Youri Tielemans in the first half, then a Wesley Fofana header relatively late on. I think the score was 2-1 still at that stage. But again, twice hitting the woodwork is frustrating.
Yeah, Youri hit the post in the second half as well, didn't he? If that goes in, I think that might have been 3-0 and it's game over. And it is a game of small margins. As you say, the header from Fofana, he does everything right, heads it from where it's come from, and the keeper's beaten, but it just narrowly goes past the post. And how often do we say it when a team's leading 2-0, the next goal is so important? And I never saw it coming, to be honest with you. Never saw the first goal coming, even though they were having a bit of pressure. They changed things. I can't remember Danny Ward having too much to do. He came for a few crosses, which he dealt with superbly. Nothing he could do for either goal, but after they'd got the first, I think there was a massive momentum switch then. I think they got the belief that they were capable of getting that second goal and bringing it back to 2-2. And you've mentioned the Tony opportunity, which he'll be disappointed he didn't score. When they scored the second goal, you got the feeling that it was coming down.
Yeah, and we said before the game you weren't 100% sure about what Brentford might bring to the Premier League this season. Has today changed your mind at all on that? They were impressive in that second half.
They were in the last half hour. They gave it a real go, which they had to because they're chasing the game. And when you're up against, I don't think Leicester capitalised on the situation and the opportunity that they had to throw men forward. You know, Brendan brought Patson Daka on. I can't remember too many balls into the channels for the likes of Vardy and Daka to show their pace and force the back three to turn and run towards their own goals. He'll tell you there's nothing worse than as a defender, especially on a boiling hot day, that you're being forced to chase things into corners. It's a missed opportunity. You know, for 45 minutes, for 46 minutes, absolutely outstanding. First half, you know, it was a tremendous performance, a performance that deserved 3 points. Sadly, the standard that was set in that first half, for some reason, dipped quite a bit in the second.
Jerry, you can understand why Brendan Rodgers made the change that he did during the second half in putting Daka and Vardy together, as Ewan was saying, but the balls just didn't quite come. It didn't quite work out the way that I'm sure he was intending it to.
Yeah, as I said, they had plenty of opportunities, Dan, from my viewing of it. Just the quality just didn't seem to be there in that final third in the second half. And I know that they still had opportunities, and obviously the goal was scored in the second half. But I mean, when the deeper you get into the game, the more pressure that's on Leicester. You know, and the opportunities that they did create. Like again, you know, you talk about Patson Daka, but we haven't mentioned Jamie Vardy. I don't think he'd one opportunity today to score. You know, I know we said that a lot of times, but normally he gets one or two in a game. I can't remember one shot or one opportunity where he's been able to open himself up and get a shot off at least. But he was still out there, and he worked so hard for the team today. But in regards to, you know, getting them or getting close to getting on the score sheet, then neither him or Patson Daka, you have to say, came anywhere close.
That in itself is very disappointing, Matt, isn't it?
Jamie Vardy not being involved enough. Yeah, it's one area of concern. I mean, there are quite a lot of games, even when Jamie's been on a good scoring run, where he's not involved that much in the general play. He's normally there at the vital moment, but it's a little bit strange at times, because Jamie's more than capable of getting involved in build-up play. You know, he's developed his game in many quarters, but first and foremost, you know, he's there to be the final piece in the jigsaw, if you like, the main finisher. But yeah, opportunities were few and far between, weren't they, today, if at all, as Jerry's mentioned. But yeah, that'd be something for Brendan to look at. I still feel that Jamie's just getting a little bit of his sharpness as well there. It's early part of the season, but I mean, he scored was it 3 goals or so, isn't it, in pre-season, I think, but it's not like he's on a barren run or anything, even at this early stage, but I still think he's getting into his stride, and it was that was disappointing, really. Although, having said that, again, Joe's mentioned it, if it's not Jamie Vardy, it needs to be someone else, and if it's not James Maddison, it needs to be someone else. And there were situations today, you could say Vardy was distracting their main line of defence, and others got in other areas. So, but Leicester not sharp enough the second half to finish off the job, really.
He technically got the assist, didn't he, Ewan, for the Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall strike. Let's talk about that, because that was a fantastic goal in itself. Brilliant to see Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall picking up effectively where he left off from last season. He won the Players' Player of the season. He was quite brilliant during that breakthrough campaign for him, and hopefully if today is anything to go by, it'll be even better.
Yeah, he's signed his new contract, which he thoroughly deserved, and it's an outstanding strike. I mean, it's a poor header from Ben Mead. It's a poor defensive header. Good awareness from Jamie Vardy, just helps the ball on, and from 25 yards, it's on his left foot. Everything's opened up for him. Great strike. Keeper's got no chance. Just going back to Jamie Vardy, I mean, there wasn't that space, especially in the first half when Leicester were played ever so well. There wasn't that sort of space in and behind the two Brentford central defenders where Jamie loves making those darting runs. That wasn't quite there because they were dropping so deep, and I think that's what allowed Leicester then to get 4, 5, 6 long shots on goal. But yeah, Dewsbury-Hall, I was slightly surprised he was taken off when he wasn't, especially having scored. But I think he's spot on, Dan. I think he's picked up from where he left off at the end of last season.
Moving forward, Jerry, are there enough green shoots of optimism for you following that one today? Obviously disappointing in that last 30 minutes in giving up that 2-0 lead, but there have to be plenty of positives to take forward into this season.
Yeah, I think so. I think if you analyse the goals conceded, then you can sort that out. That's not too difficult. They've created opportunities. They've scored 2 goals in the first game of the season. Created opportunities, lots of opportunities, not goal scoring opportunities, but attacking opportunities that could on another day have turned into goal scoring opportunities. So there's lots of positives in that respect. It's the first game of the season. And mistakes happen. I think I said it just before kick-off. I said that the one thing you don't want to do as a defender especially is make mistakes in the first game, because, as I said, you don't really know what's going to happen, and all you're trying to do is do the basics well. And you've seen the amount of mistakes that were made today by both teams. Ewan's already mentioned Ben Mee, normally very, very reliable. That opportunity comes for Dewsbury-Hall because it's a poor clearance from Ben Mee. And similarly, from Leicester's point of view, indecision making or wrong decision making helped Brentford come out of this game with a 2-2 draw. So if you learn from them, then fingers crossed that things will improve quite rapidly.
As you can see on the bottom of the screen there, next up is a trip to the Emirates, Ewan. A Saturday 3 o'clock kickoff, which Leicester fans didn't have many of those last season. I'm sure there'll be plenty this season without any European football on a Thursday, certainly. So what are you expecting from that one? It's an opportunity again. It's a tough away game to start as a first one of the season.
That will be a tough away game, and you look at the first 4 away games. Chelsea are in there, Spurs are in there. 3 trips to London, Arsenal being the first one. They got off to a really good start on Friday night. Convincing 2-0 win at Sellers Park. I think Arteta's strengthened the squad. I like what he's brought in. It'll be a tough game. And that's the element of disappointment. I think the lads, they'll get this out of their system, to get this disappointing feeling that they'll be feeling at the minute, having thrown a 2-goal lead away. Got to get out of their system, because they go again in a tough place to go. But Leicester have been there before and come away with positive results. And you tend to dwell on what you've seen in the second half more than if they can replicate what they did in that first half. It was a joy to watch. The passing, the movement, the intensity in their passing as well. It was superb, and it's just disappointed that they never kept that part of the game up in the second half like they did in the first half.
And hopefully we see a repeat or a similar performance next week in the first half that we did again in the first half today.
Yeah, I think it was a good point, that you said there. Got to be mindful of the positive aspects of their play today, and I'm sure Brendan Rodgers will do that. He'll make sure that that's highlighted, and he'll say, look, this is what you're capable of. This is what I'm looking for, pretty much. That was sort of textbook from the players in the first half and what Brendan Rodgers wants in his team, certainly in possession. And it's just, I'm guessing whether it was the case or not, I'm sure it was an element of that, of the tiredness issue. Would it be in the opening game? They couldn't sustain that intensity of their play, but he'll be looking to improve that down the line, and also their focus. And if they can play anything like the first 45 for 75, 85 minutes, ideally 90 plus minutes, then they give themselves a real chance against anyone.
Well, big thank you to Jerry Taggart, to Matt Elliott and to Ewan Roberts. As we said before the game, Ewan Roberts will be my co-host on Extra Time every Monday evening, so tune in for that tomorrow evening. But yeah, thanks to those three guests for their company today. Thank you to those of you at home who watched. Thanks to those that came, of course, to King Power Stadium. It was a brilliant atmosphere today. Unfortunately, the result couldn't quite be replicated on the pitch, but in the opening game of the season, it's finished 2-2 here at King Power Stadium.